We go from one video after another trying to determine whether the person that we're inquiring about is a narcissist or is it about them having high narcissistic traits. So today I want to get into that. We'll talk about the differences, and it really is hard to tell, but I'll do my best to explain. And then after, I want to talk about the binge watching that we find ourselves doing, because it isn't always about trying to determine whether or not the person you're inquiring about is a narcissist here. There's a lot more to this, so I hope that you'll stay tuned. So let's first look at the differences, and then we'll get on with some important things that you might want to know. We've all called someone a narcissist after a bad breakup or a run-in with a rude boss. But in psychology, there's a difference between having narcissistic traits and having narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. One is a set of annoying behaviors that, by the way, can be just as harmful. The other is a rigid, lifelong mental health condition. You can use these three S words for reference: spectrum, severity, and stability. Number one, the spectrum. It's about frequency. We all have a little bit of healthy narcissistic traits that helps us feel confident or advocate for ourselves. But someone with high traits, they might prioritize the me all the time. They'll brag too much or be selfish, but they'll still care about things to some degree, like having hurt someone, whereas a true narcissist has no empathy or extremely little, and what little they have is distorted. It is a widespread pattern that touches every single part of their lives, from their marriage to how they treat their coworkers. They might play nice around the coworker, but they're still wearing a mask. They're still trying to either impress or sabotage. The person with high narcissistic traits might need constant validation, but act like they don't. They can be emotionally self-focused. Even in your moments of pain, they'll struggle with empathy when it costs them something. For example, you tell them that you're feeling overwhelmed and could use their support, and they might respond with something like, "I get that you're stressed, but I already had a long day. I need to relax. Can we talk later?" So they acknowledge your emotions, but they withdraw the moment empathy would require energy, time, or presence. The high narcissistic traits person will often deflect accountability with excuses, jokes, or subtle blame, get defensive or dismissive when confronted, and alternate between charm and emotional distance. They often view relationships as how you make them feel, not who you are. They're not always cruel or obvious. In fact, many appear charismatic and helpful when it benefits their image here. But the key difference from a full NPD is people with high narcissistic traits can sometimes reflect, briefly feel guilty or shame. They can change behaviors if it threatens their self-image enough, and they can acknowledge wrongdoing in limited ways here. We're talking about the high narcissistic person here. But here's the catch. Change usually stops the moment that it becomes uncomfortable or requires sustained emotional responsibility. So you'll often see apologies without change, insight without action, and promises without follow through. The point is that even though that they don't have NPD marked on their forehead here, it still makes for a toxic relationship that isn't changing. You're still feeling alone. You're still feeling disregarded and unseen. You're still feeling exploited. But if you still want to be able to identify whether it's NPD or high traits, you can look at number 2, the empathy test. It's about remorse. The biggest tell, accountability. A person with high narcissistic traits might hurt your feelings, but if you call them out, they are capable of feeling genuine remorse and changing their behavior because they actually value the relationship. With NPD, empathy is often a marked deficit instead of an apology. You'll get gaslighting, blame shifting, or a rage response. They don't see people as partners. They see them as tools for external validation. And the last S is number 3, stability. It's about consistency. These behaviors are often situational. Someone might act entitled when they're stressed or after they get a big promotion. That happens, but it fades once things settle down. But when it comes to NPD, the traits are stable. It starts in early adulthood and it doesn't just go away because they had a good week. People with high narcissistic traits, as well as those with narcissistic personality disorder, don't necessarily lack all empathy, but they often have a severely limited or unwilling capacity to apply it. It is a spectrum. While some may have low effective emotional empathy, others possess cognitive empathy but choose not to use it. The DSM diagnosis criteria describes NPD as being unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others rather than being entirely incapable of it. Selective empathy. People with high narcissism often show empathy only when it serves them, or they might have empathy for specific groups, for example, underdogs, while lacking it in personal, intimate relationships. A lot of narcissists can read emotions, cognitive empathy, but they don't feel them, affective empathy. This allows them to manipulate or simulate caring. Some individuals with high narcissistic traits, particularly the vulnerable or covert types, might actually feel excessive, overwhelming emotional empathy due to childhood trauma, but they struggle to manage or express it healthily. People with high narcissistic traits can show genuine, though perhaps inconsistent, empathy, whereas a full NPD diagnosis implies a long-term pattern of lacking empathy. So in summary, a lack of empathy is a key feature of NPD, but it is not an absolute all or nothing state, because a lot of narcissistic individuals have the capacity for empathy but choose to disengage from it. Narcissistic traits exist on a spectrum. A lot of people show them under stress, insecurity, trauma, or learned behavior. NPD, on the other hand, is a diagnosable personality disorder with rigid, long-standing patterns that show up across most areas of life. You don't need the diagnosis to experience the damage, though. It is a destructive cycle of needing admiration, feeling entitled, and exploiting others to get it. But do keep in mind that the person with high narcissistic traits that are not deemed NPD can still exploit others to the max. So that being said, let's get back to the other reasons that you might be binge watching videos regarding narcissism. We go from one video after another trying to determine if they're a narcissist, even though the last 30 video talks fit the bill. And why is that? Well, there's more than one reason, and I'll get into that. But let's talk about the diagnosis trap first. A lot of you are watching these videos because you're trying to figure out a very specific distinction. Is my partner a full-blown narcissist, or do they have just high narcissistic traits, which we just covered? But we get stuck here because we tell ourselves a comforting story that we can rationalize. We think that if they are a narcissist, a true one, it's hopeless and then we can leave. But if it's just traits, maybe they're just wounded. Maybe it's just childhood trauma. Maybe I can fix it. We treat the diagnosis like a permission slip to leave. We feel that we need a clinical verdict to justify our pain. But the thing is the label, it doesn't change the impact. Whether they have the full disorder or just high traits, the result in your life is the same. You feel diminished. You're being manipulated. Your needs are never met. You don't need a PhD or a 30-page clinical report to prove that your relationship is unhealthy. A cheater is a cheater. A selfish person is a self-absorbed person. You're scanning these videos for a reason to stay, just in case they aren't a narcissist. But remember, healthy people don't leave you wondering if they're a narcissist, even after you know the truth. You've watched the videos, you've read the articles, you've checked every single box on the narcissist checklist, you know what they are, so why are we still here? Why is it 2 a.m. and you're 5 videos deep into another series on narcissistic traits? You are not alone in this, and I want to go over 5 psychological reasons that your brain won't let this go, and how to finally transition from studying them to healing you. This loop of information seeking is actually a documented part of trauma recovery, so don't judge yourself here. It's often called compulsive validation. And before we dive in, if this hits home, please consider hitting that like button because it helps this video reach others who are currently stuck in the same cycle. Otherwise, YouTube doesn't show our videos to people. Okay, so here we go. Five reasons for the information loop. Number 1, the antidote to gaslighting. The first reason is simple: sanity. Narcissistic abuse relies on gaslighting, making you doubt your own ears and eyes. These videos act as a reality anchor. Every time a blog or a video describes a specific behavior, your partner or your friend or parents, something that they did, it tells your brain that I'm not delusional. That actually happened. Because you have so much cognitive dissonance going on with these people. Number 2, the trauma bond and intermittent reinforcement. Your brain is literally chemically addicted because the narcissist gave you good moments intermittently. Your brain is wired to keep searching for answers, hoping that there's a search key to getting that good version back. You're scanning these videos for a solution to an unsolvable puzzle. Plus, you're getting the validation that you've been lacking. That one's a big one. Number 3, maintaining a safe connection. This is a tough one to hear because sometimes we watch these videos because it's an indirect way to stay in touch with the narcissist. As long as you're studying them, they're still the center of your world. There's a connection somehow. It feels safer than the cold, empty silence of moving on. The 4th one is the survival mechanism. Your nervous system is in survival mode. It views the narcissist as a predator. In the wild, you never take your eyes off of a predator. Your brain thinks that if it learns everything about how they operate, it can finally predict the next attack and stay safe. And 5, dismantling the shared fantasy. You're trying to kill the infusion, the version of them that you have inside your head. You have to hear the truth repeatedly until the fantasy of who you thought they were finally dies and the reality of who they actually are takes its place. There comes a point where understanding them doesn't help you anymore. Dr. Ramani often says that once you have the booster shot of information, it's time to center your own healing. And she's right. This means moving from what is a narcissist to why did I stay, or how do I rebuild my self-worth? Start writing prescriptions for self-care instead of more notes on their personality disorder. The final step of recovery isn't knowing everything about the narcissist. It's when you finally find them boring, when they no longer impress you, pretty much when you've had enough, right? So if you're ready to start focusing on yourself, the last video I just did addresses what you can do to start the healing. I'll put it up on the end screen, but I'll also link it in the description down below because YouTube tends to change the end screens on us. And also, many of my videos talk about ways to heal, but I usually talk about these things at the end of my videos because not everybody's ready to heal. So if some of you are looking to heal, watch my videos till the end. Not all of them, but a lot of them have tips and tricks. So that is all for today. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. We shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.